forests roar ferociously. This is a continent unlike any other, a world far removed from modern civilization. Here, survival is dictated by the law of the jungle, where might makes right and living off the raw flesh and blood is the norm. This is the world of demons and monsters. The wild grass is withered and yellow, reaching up to a person's waist. In a concave-shaped valley, Lu Weian is facing off against a rotting corpse. With a roll to dodge the corpse's clawing attack, he springs 2 meters forward using his hands and feet, swiftly retreating to put distance between them. With a flick of his fingers behind his back, a wooden arrow appears in his hand, ready to be drawn. His movements are astonishingly fast as he draws the bow to its full extent, releasing the arrow like a shooting star. Whoa! The arrow strikes the rotting corpse's left eye, penetrating 2 inches deep. Dark red blood spurts out as the eyeball is shattered into pieces. Anyone witnessing this scene would be taken aback. Rotting corpses are formed from the mutated dead, their muscles atrophy and their moisture evaporated, making their bodies exceptionally hard. Ordinary wooden arrows would not penetrate them, but Lu Weian's arrow is no ordinary one. The shaft is made of wood, but the tip is crafted from beast bone, sharpened to an extreme, and the fletching uses the feathers of the Huomao wild chicken to increase its speed. Lu Weian reaches behind with his other hand only to grasp at air. His expression changes as a gust of wind hits his ear. Without thinking, he raises his bow to block, only to hear a snap as the solid peach in poplar wood bow breaks in two. A massive force hits him, immediately causing his hand to split open. Lu Weian twists his body, curling up as much as possible, and rolls under the rotting corpse's armpit, creating a distance of over 10 meters with several rolls. He keeps his eyes on the corpse, gasping for air. There are 2 rotting corpses. The one he shot in the eye stands about 1.7 meters tall, but due to its hunchback, it appears to be only 1.63 meters. Its body is nearly half decayed, presenting a ghastly mix of dead gray and dark red. Its clothes are tattered and stained purple-black with blood. Its hair is dry, and white maggots can be seen moving from one nostril to the other, a brief glimpse before disappearing beneath the rotting flesh, leaving behind a moist, dark red trail. The other is noticeably shorter, by at least half a head, and its body is in a more advanced state of decay. The chest area of its clothing has fallen away, revealing a dense cluster of white bones and wriggling maggots within the rotting flesh. The eyeballs have long been corroded, leaving behind 2 dark, empty sockets. However, its claws remain sharp as knives. It is difficult to understand how, amidst the decay of every part of their bodies, only their fingers remain undamaged, with nails that have grown nearly 3 inches long, sharp and gleaming with a cold light. Lu Weian takes a couple of deep breaths and then immediately controls his breathing, making it as gentle and slow as possible. Even though he is on the outskirts of a graveyard, centuries of erosion have allowed the stench of decay to spread. Within less than 5 minutes, Lu Weian feels a tightness in his chest and a decline in his physical strength, but the prospect of easy prey keeps him from leaving. He has been lurking around the outskirts of this graveyard for a week, having figured out the general patterns of the rotting corpses. They rarely act alone. At the slightest noise, they all spring into action. The reason these 2 have strayed from the group is due to the efforts of a group before him, who expended great effort to lure them out. Unfortunately, their mission ended in failure, with a team of 12 completely wiped out. Lu Weian had decided that if he couldn't find an opportunity today, he would leave, so in a way, he has those before him to thank. Lu Weian is an archer, and his choice of being an archer stems from his fear of death. Archers engage in ranged combat, offering the advantage of distance for retreat if overpowered. This was his primary reason for choosing to be an archer. The secondary reason is the cost of other weapons like swords, spears, axes, and halberds, which are expensive. He couldn't afford them since they are made of metal, and he didn't know how to forge them. Bows and arrows, however, can be made from materials found on the spot, are cost-free, and thus, after a few seconds of serious consideration, he proudly became an archer. However, to his surprise, he discovered that he had a remarkable talent for archery. After just a few days of practice with the rudimentary bow he had crafted, his accuracy within 10 meters reached an astonishing 90% 90%, and within 15 meters, 60%. However, the drawback was clear: beyond 25 meters, his arrows lacked power. Lu Weian found himself in a predicament, being an archer forced into close combat with the undead. Their bodies, hardened beyond normal flesh, could withstand arrows beyond 10 meters, making his specially crafted bone-tipped arrows ineffective. Notably, These undead were exceptionally lethargic, losing interest if their prey was beyond a certain distance, unlike any that would wander out for sunlight without cause. As two of the undead staggered towards Lu Weian, anyone deceived by their slow pace would meet a grim fate. He had witnessed a group ahead of them fall prey to this mistake, losing many. When the undead approached within 5 meters, they suddenly surged forward like dark shadows, swift as lightning, their razor-sharp claws slicing through the air. Prepared, Lu Weian leaned back in a move akin to a limbo dance, narrowly evading their claws. Feeling the chill of their near miss, he mustered all his strength to hurl a rock the size of a human head he had prepared earlier. The rock struck the taller undead in the left eye, where an arrow was lodged, pushing the arrow through its head and splintering the skull. The force of the rock caused the undead's nose to collapse, and several maggots were crushed. The body wobbled and fell, unable to rise again. After throwing the rock, Lu Weian rolled away, having observed that the undead, due to their stiff muscles, had difficulty bending, presenting a vulnerability. Holding the broken bow in both hands, he used the bowstring to entangle the shorter undead's ankle and pulled, causing it to fall. Jumping up, he smashed another rock onto the back of its head. The rock shattered, but the undead barely reacted, save for a few strands of hair drifting down. Despite its body's decay, it managed to rise, leaving Lu Weian no time to find another rock. He leaped, stomping on its back, but was flung away by an irresistible force. Landing hard, he spat blood, feeling as though his body had fallen apart. The smell of blood incited the undead, which charged at him with double speed. In a daze, Lu Weian rolled away at the last moment, avoiding a lethal strike. In the midst of crisis, he bit his tongue to regain clarity and realized he was under the undead, its foot coming down towards him. With all his strength, he rolled away, narrowly avoiding a fatal stomp. Spotting the broken bough still entangled around its foot, he quickly grabbed it, entangling the other foot and causing the undead to lose balance and fall towards him. He rolled away just in time to avoid being touched by its decaying, maggot-filled flesh. Rising quickly, Lu Weian ran to the larger undead, still twitching but unable to stand. Ignoring it, he pulled out his arrow, accidentally splashing a corrosive liquid onto his thigh, burning through his clothes and flesh with excruciating pain. Realizing the deadly nature of the undead's fluid, comparable to the most potent acids, he saw no choice but to cut away the infected flesh with a small dagger, enduring the agonizing pain. Then, he rushed to the smaller undead, stabbing it in the eye socket with an arrow, further agitating it. Taking advantage of its unbalanced state, he used the broken bough to entangle its feet again, causing it to fall and the arrow to pierce its skull, breaking in the process. Exhausted, Lu Weian picked up a large machete from among the weapons left by a previous group, now lying among their bodies. Noticing corrosion on the blade, he gained a deeper understanding of the undead's toxic fluids. It took him over half an hour to decapitate the two undead, leaving him nearly drained of energy, lying on the ground, wishing for nothing but rest.